A narcissist is a master at manipulating people with silence. They don't speak, don't explain. They simply vanish from the conversation, leaving you drowning in chaotic emotions. Their goal is simple: make you torture yourself, blame yourself, and ultimately beg for their attention. The quieter they are, the more control they have over you. The more confused you become, the more powerful they feel. They watch you struggle in the fog of uncertainty, anxiety, and desperation for answers. And in that moment, they feel alive. Don't go looking for a reason behind their silence, because there isn't one. They're not silent because they're hurt. They're silent because they want to be punished. Silence is a weapon, not a bridge. It's how they manipulate your emotions, control your thoughts, and crush your self-respect while wearing an expressionless mask, pretending nothing is wrong. But behind that fake power lies a rotting inner world, unhealed wounds, a distorted self craving attention and worship. They're silent not because of you, but because of themselves. They can't engage in real dialogue because words could crack the mask they're wearing. They fear the truth you reflect back at them, and in that fear, they freeze the world around them to preserve the illusion that they still control you. Every plea, every anxious message you send becomes food for their fractured ego. They need you to react, to spiral, to prove they still have influence. For a narcissist, attention is oxygen. But then one day, you stop. You stop begging. You stop asking why. You stop trying to fix things. You choose silence, not to manipulate, but to liberate yourself. And in that moment, when you step out of their game, their real hatred begins. In Carl Jung's language, this is when their shadow rises. Because your awakened light has illuminated the shame, deceit, and emptiness they tried to hide. They cannot bear being seen, so they strike back to destroy your image. They don't just want you to hurt, they want you to disappear, to believe you're worthless, to believe you deserve their punishing silence. But you must understand this. They don't hate you because you did something wrong. They hate you because you stopped obeying. Your silence robs them of their sense of power, and when that power dissolves and the mask falls, they're left facing the one thing they fear most themselves. Part 1. The psychological nature of hatred. When Jung spoke of the shadow, the darkness within the human psyche, he wasn't referring to evil in a religious sense, but to the parts of the soul we refuse to acknowledge. For the narcissist, that shadow is the hidden shame they cover with an illusion of perfection. They live in a state of inner split. One part longs to be loved, the other fears being seen. And when you, through your awareness, truly see who they are, hatred is born. This hatred is not directed outward. It's a reflection of their own inner conflict. You accidentally become the mirror. In you, they see everything they've tried to hide, their smallness, dependency, and deceit. Instead of facing it, they try to shatter the mirror. They need you to be silent, to doubt yourself, so they can keep believing the illusion that they are strong, innocent, and right. Their hatred doesn't come from power, it comes from the collapse of illusion. They cannot bear the moment you stop being dependent, because all this time, you were their supply. Your praise was their fuel. Your pain was their proof of power. Your love was the mirror that reflected their fantasy of being admirable. When you withdraw those things, they lose the identity they feed on. From Jung's perspective, this is enantiodromia, the reversal of extremes. The more they cling to their image of perfection, the more violently the opposite rises to the surface, the weak, dependent self. And you, through detachment, become the catalyst that brings their shadow into the light. Nothing threatens the mask wearer more than the light of consciousness. Here lies the tragic paradox. They hate you, yet still watch you. They want you to disappear, yet need you to feel alive. They use silence to punish you, but that very silence exposes the emptiness inside them. In the narcissist's world, control means existence. If they can't control your emotions, they feel themselves fading. Thus, your independence, something normal people see as maturity, feels to them like a threat to survival. They cannot stand your calmness, your self-sufficiency, your lack of reaction. Your peace is the verdict that terrifies them. Hatred, then, is the last biological reaction of a dying ego. When emotional power is gone, they must create something, anything, to feel that I still matter. and so they choose hatred. Hatred becomes the last thread connecting them to you. It allows them to believe they still occupy space in your mind, even if only through anger. But what they don't realize is this: the more they hate you, the more they prove that you remain the center of their universe. They don't hate you because you hurt them. They hate you because you made them see themselves weak, hollow, dependent. You shattered the mask they needed to survive, and from that moment on, everything within them begins to collapse. As Carl Jung said, "For once light has been seen, it cannot be extinguished." Darkness does not disappear by running from it. It dissolves only when you have the courage to face it. Part 2. The biggest sign: they start erasing you from reality. Their hatred isn't loud. It's enacted through erasure. They stop mentioning your name, deny what once existed, and refuse to acknowledge the harm they caused. They turn you into a shadow and then try to erase even that shadow. This is the tactic of erasure, one of the deepest expressions of narcissistic hatred. When they can no longer control you, they try to control the memory of you. They rewrite the story. What was once your contribution, they claim as their own. What were once their words, they now attribute to you. The wounds you suffered, they twist into proof that you were unstable. In Jungian psychology, this is the ego's defense through denial of reality. They don't erase you because you are insignificant. They erase you because your existence fractures the identity they're desperately trying to hold together. Every thought of you reminds them they've lost power. And for those who live by the illusion of control, losing power means losing themselves. So they launch their silent campaign. They unfollow you, yet secretly watch everything you post. They act indifferent, yet drop your name in veiled references. They don't attack you directly, but spread half-truths to reshape how others see you. The harder they try to prove you are nothing, the more they reveal that you were everything. Because only something that still hurts, still haunts, must be erased at all costs. But this erasure isn't just outward, it turns inward. In trying to erase you, they erase the last fragment of their own humanity. Because whether they like it or not, you once mirrored the part of them that was still capable of love, feeling, and being seen. When you left, they didn't just lose you, they lost their ability to recognize what is real. Here lies the paradox. Their silence isn't victory, it's a controlled collapse. They go quiet not because they've won, but because silence hides defeat. They hate you because you forced them to face a truth they cannot bear. Love cannot be controlled, and attention cannot be coerced. Jung once said, "What we do not make conscious returns to us as fate." And indeed, the narcissist who tries to erase you from reality is scripting their own fate. A hollow life where every relationship is a failed imitation of what they once had with you, the one who truly saw them. If you want to know how deeply they hate you, look at how hard they try to act as if you never existed. Because the more they deny you, the more they confess that you remain the memory they cannot endure. They want to erase you from the world because they cannot bear the truth, that you were the one who made them see themselves. Part 3. When your silence becomes their nightmare. For the narcissist, silence is a tool to punish others. But when you begin to use silence as a form of freedom, the roles reverse. What used to be their weapon becomes a mirror reflecting their own weakness. And here comes the moment that destabilizes them most. For the first time, they taste a kind of silence they cannot control. They once believed they decided who gets to speak, who must be quiet, who receives attention, and who will be ignored. But when you stop reacting, no pleading, no justifying, their entire control system collapses. Your silence is no longer an empty space. It's a barrier between them and the emotional supply they live on. At a psychological depth, this is what Jung calls the dark night of the ego, where every illusion of power begins to crumble piece by piece. To them, your silence feels like wind sucking out the oxygen. They feel suffocated because your attention no longer feeds them. And to fill that void, they will do anything to pull you back into the old spiral. A sudden message with a tone of concern, a fake apology sprinkled with old memories, a carefully staged accidental appearance. It's all just hoovering, drawing you back so they can breathe. But what they didn't expect is that this time, you have changed. You are no longer manipulated by their emptiness. You recognize that your silence is no longer the fear of abandonment. but the space of inner strength. You are no longer silent to avoid upsetting them, but because there is nothing left to say to someone who only listens to themselves. You don't need to end things with words. Your maturity speaks for you. Within you, there's no need to prove, no need to be understood. Only one simple truth: peace. That is what drives them mad. Your peace is proof they've lost power. Every outburst, every lie they spread, is a desperate attempt to shake you. They cannot stand you standing still because in that stillness, they are forced to face themselves. And that is what the narcissist fears most. Not being hated, not being left, but being truly seen. When you are silent, you don't just step out of the game. You place them in front of a mirror. No one is there to smudge it for them anymore. No words left to twist. No feelings left to manipulate. Only themselves, bare, hollow, panicked. Your silence doesn't make them win, nor does it make you lose. It is simply the end of the illusion. In that quiet, you reclaim the power they once stole, the right to feel, to be present, to be yourself without anyone's permission. And that is the paradox. The moment they hate you most is the moment you are strongest. They say you're cold, but in truth, you are calm. They call you unfeeling, but in truth, you are no longer governed by their emotions. Your silence is not an absence. It is proof that your soul has returned. When you understand this, every accusation, every act of retaliation becomes nothing more than a distant echo in an empty room. They may spread rumors, smear you, pretend to be happy, but deep down they know the one who is free is not them, but you. Part 4. Why they hate your light. In Carl Jung's psychology, every soul carries two halves, light and shadow. Light is the part we've made conscious, goodness, understanding, love, empathy. Shadow is the part we refuse, envy, fear, control, shame. A mature person dares to enter their own darkness to understand it. A narcissist does not. They deny the shadow at any cost. And when you show up, you unintentionally become the mirror that illuminates what they don't want to see. You make them see the truth, that their confidence is only a mask for the fear of being looked down on. Their charm is merely a tactic to avoid abandonment. Their controlling nature is a way to hide their helplessness. Your light, your awareness, kindness, and capacity for empathy throws them into panic. Not because you attack them, but because it makes them see their own repressed shadow. They cannot bear it. To them, you are not just a person. You are a symbol of everything they cannot become. Honest, humble, loving, and compassionate. Jung said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That's what you did. You brought the light of consciousness. You saw, you understood, you let go. And that is what makes them hate you more than anyone. They hate you because you are no longer pulled into their game. They hate you because you no longer need them to know who you are. They hate you because while they live in fear and pretense, you chose authenticity and truth. To one who lives by illusion, truth is a consuming fire. The brighter you shine, the more violently their darkness rises. They might say, "You're arrogant, unfeeling, changed." But what they're really saying is, "Your light blinds me." Because when you heal, you don't just leave them physically. You withdraw the mirror that once sustained their illusion. Without that reflection, they no longer know who they are. On a spiritual level, this is a clash of two archetypes, the empath and the narcissist. One seeks truth, the other flees it. One illuminates, the other conceals. One accepts pain to grow, the other denies pain to survive. And when these two forces meet, an irreversible process begins. Light exposes shadow. You don't need to speak or prove anything. Your existence, how you walk, how you keep quiet, is a reminder that there is another way to live. Truer, freer, deeper. But the paradox is that instead of learning from you, they want to destroy you. Because to accept your light, they would have to face their own darkness. And they are not ready for that. As Jung said, "The bearer of light is never loved by the crowd, for he illuminates the places others wish to keep in darkness." So do not fear their hatred. That hatred is a sign that you have become a light they cannot extinguish. You don't need to convince anyone you're good. Light does not argue with darkness. It simply exists, and darkness fades. The calmer you are, the brighter you shine. And as you continue on your path, you realize their hatred is not a curse, but a confirmation, proof that you have moved beyond them, that you are no longer a piece in their game, that you have stepped out of illusion and returned to your own reality. Part 5. The final distortion: hatred as a confession. By this stage, every mask has fallen. What remains in the narcissist is neither love nor true hatred, but emptiness dressed in hatred to feel alive. Hatred becomes the final form of communication between you and them, distorted, resentful, but still the only thread they can hold on to. They will try to warp your image. They'll tell inverted stories, cast you as the villain, and play the victim to gain pity. But what they never realize is this: every slander they speak is a confession. When they call you selfish, it's because you set boundaries. When they call you unfeeling, it's because you stopped reacting. When they say you've changed, it's because you stopped being their supply. They don't see that by attacking you, they reveal their true fear, that they no longer have power. Hatred for them is a way to clutch at lost control. It is the illusion that if they keep talking about you, even with venom, they still control the narrative. But the truth is the opposite. The more they hate you, the more they prove you remain at the center of their thoughts while they orbit the void. In Jungian terms, this is the disintegration of the ego. When illusion can no longer sustain itself, when the shadow refuses integration, it self-destructs. Unable to face their own weakness, they need someone to blame. And that someone is you, the mirror that once reflected the light that made them see truth. The more peaceful you are, the more unhinged they become. The quieter you are, the louder they must be to fill the void. Because in their hearts, your peace is proof the war is over and they lost. But understand this: their hatred is not as powerful as it seems. It doesn't come from contempt, but from the pain of losing control. Spiritually, it is the death rattle of the ego. And when that ego realizes it can no longer rule your soul, it screams, resists, and then dissolves. So do not fight back. Do not try to prove anything or seek justice from those who don't know what justice is. Every reaction you give becomes food for their ego. Instead, see their hatred as a closing ritual, a funeral for illusion, where you step into the light and they remain trapped in the darkness they created. They will never admit it, but deep down they know. You saw them stripped bare. You stood firm after they tried to break you. You survived what they believed would destroy you. And that is why they cannot forgive, not because you hurt them, but because you proved they no longer have the power to hurt you. Their hatred is a confession that you have won, not by force, but by awareness. You do not need to respond. Light does not need to prove it is light. It only needs to be present, and darkness dissolves on its own. While they remain trapped in hatred, you have already moved into the next chapter, the chapter of freedom, peace, and emotional independence they will never understand. In the end, you realize something so profound that it leaves no room for argument. They don't hate you for what you did. They hate you because you're no longer under their control. In the narcissist's world, people only have value when they can be controlled. When you break free from that orbit, they lose direction like a planet torn away from the artificial sun they built for themselves. And in that panic, they choose hatred, because hating you is easier than admitting they've lost. But for you, that very moment is where freedom begins, because you no longer need fake love, hollow approval, or polished apologies to feel worthy. You've seen the whole game, and you no longer wish to play. No need to win, no need to be understood. You only want to be yourself, whole and at peace. In this journey, you didn't just walk away from a person. You walked away from an unconscious loop where you once traded kindness for love, stayed silent to be accepted, shrank yourself so someone else could feel bigger, and now you don't need to do that anymore. You no longer react out of fear. You simply exist in the light of your own being. Carl Jung once said, "No one becomes enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And that's exactly what you've done. You walked through the darkness, through manipulation, silence, contempt, and resentment without losing your soul. You made that darkness conscious, and in doing so, you no longer belong to it. So when they hate you, smile, because that hatred is a certificate of your growth. It means you have outgrown the role of victim and become the observer. It means you're no longer defined by how they see you, but by how you see yourself. And more importantly, it means you've shifted to a frequency they can no longer reach. Let them perform. Let them slander. Let them pretend to be happy. Because the truth is, they no longer have you. And that absence is the void they'll carry for the rest of their lives. You don't need to prove who's right or wrong. Life balances itself. Every ounce of energy once stolen will find its way back to its source. And what remains within you is silence. Not the silence of fear, but the stillness of a soul that has found itself again. When they hate you most, that is when your soul is finally free from them. When they fall silent, it is the universe's way of saying, "You have completed this lesson. Leave in peace. No need to slam the door. No need to look back. Because on the other side of hatred lies the light of freedom. And you, who walked through fire without turning to ash, are living proof that true love does not need approval to exist. You have won not because they lost, but because you chose yourself. If you are in that stage now, share your story in the comments section below. You are not alone. Every soul that chooses light has been hated by darkness. But in the end, light always wins, not by fighting, but by simply existing. Welcome to Empire of the Mind. Subscribe to this channel and share for more self-awakening videos.